Hello everyone. My name is Art Russell. Welcome to my channel. As you can tell by the title, the point of this video is I am. Not I am Art Russell, this character of flesh and bones, or I am the character that you've been conditioned to believe that you are. But I am, true self, our essential nature beyond name and form. You might think of this video as a pointer, in much the same way that the inscription, "Know Thyself," on the Temple of Apollo in Delphi, Greece, was a pointer to the beings during that time. Obviously, it was considered important to know themselves at a deeper level. Now, before we go on with the content, I'd like to draw your attention to this photo of the lion. Now, when I first moved into this apartment, I was inspired to have that photo made up. And to me, it serves as a reminder of our true nature. Not that we're a lion, but that there's a deeper level of self beyond the character, beyond the person. Now, most of us don't question that, but I'm suggesting that it's worthwhile to do that. The image of the lion reminds me of a wisdom story in which a lioness was stalking sheep, and she leapt into a flock, and the story is told that she died but gave birth to a cub before she died. And that cub, because it was raised in an environment of sheep, grew up believing that it was a sheep. So there was confusion about its true nature. And that's the point of the story. Now, this photo also reminds me of a book entitled "Wake Up and Roar," Satsang with Papaji, who was an awakened being. And the book was written by Eli Jackson Bear. So, let's get into the content. So, I've explained this before, but I think it's worth going over again. You might be asking, Art, why is this important? I know myself as John or Mary or Ananda or whatever name is appropriate in your case, and I'm fine with that. Why is this important? It's important because when we identify with being something that we're truly not, suffering arises. Now, this is not to say that there's not challenges when we live from true self. Flat tires and that kind of thing can still happen. But we process them more lightly. When we identify 100% with being the person, we take everything so seriously that we suffer greatly. So knowing a deeper dimension of self can help us go more smoothly and gently in the apparent world. So I'm going to help us dive deep or begin this process with a quote from a book entitled "The Law of Success" by Paramahansa Yogananda. Now, he was well known, and many of you are probably aware that he wrote a book entitled Autobiography of a Yogi, which is well known, and many people are very familiar with that. Now, I found this other book, The Law of Success, as I was studying the law of attraction. There's one quote that's going to help us today in this video. The quote is, "Mind is the creator of everything." Mind. So let's remember that. So you might be wondering, how can this be so? How can the mind be the creator of everything? So I've used this example before, and many other teachers of this or deep thinkers relate this, but in our nighttime dreams, space-time, persons, events within the dream are all made by consciousness or mind. Everything is rendered by mind. We would never for a moment believe that discrete objects actually exist in the dream. The brick building that we enter in a dream appears to be made of real mortar, real bricks. But when awakening occurs in the morning, we realize that those bricks were made out of mind. So objects that appear to be made of matter were clearly not. So what I'm offering in this video is that there's another interpretation of reality that can be beneficial, and this requires a shift in our perspective of how we process life, events, and even that which we truly are. Now, you might be thinking, how does knowing this help me know my essential nature? You know, we're told in spiritual teachings that the body is just a costume, but no, Art. Look, it's real. It's real, and the world is made of concrete, real objects. This can help us if we know that the template of understanding, as I like to call it, that we used to the contents of nighttime dreams can actually be overlaid on this reality right here, right now. Now you might be thinking, Art, I don't want to be delusional. I know that I'm this body mind. I know that I am, and I don't want to be convinced otherwise. And I'm not trying to convince you of anything. I'd like you to really know that. I'm just offering information and ways to go deeper that may ease some suffering. At the bottom line, that's what I'm attempting to do here, is to ease suffering. Why? Because I've personally experienced it, and it can be very rough. So if I can contribute positively, that's the aim of this video and the work that I do. So that template of understanding. So let's see if we can get to how that could possibly be so. We know that the things, apparent objects within nighttime dreams made of mind, had to be images or frames moved together so quickly that objects appeared solid. There was no lasting concrete matter within those dreams. A person within a dream that seems very real during the dream, there's no room in consciousness for actual flesh and bones. All right, so let's use science. This is where science is actually proving very helpful. I've mentioned this before. I was actually surprised to learn this a number of years ago, but Google this anywhere and you'll see under atoms, which were once thought of as being the building blocks of matter, are actually 99.999% empty space. Now, even that emptiness is actually full of some kind of energy and fields, that type of thing. But what I'd like you to know that we're not getting down to little pellets of like solid things that are indestructible. It's energy appearing as objects, things, little things. The double slit experiment, which you can also Google or go on another browser, whatever you choose, can be very helpful. Understanding that light has dualistic nature of wave and particle, and that depending on how we observe it, now this is one of the interpretations, that it will behave either as a wave or as a solid particle. And this changes whether a camera is set up to detect how the light behaved. It appeared that when we weren't measuring it, it behaved as waves, made a wavy pattern on a background. But that when we focus with our intention and what we're expecting, it returned to being like two solid demarcations on a backdrop. Another useful tool that can help us question our belief systems, is what I'm really trying to do here too, is time. What I'm saying is that when we know that all there is now, even though we've been conditioned to believe in a linear progression, past to future, that all there is now. Now, fresh every moment or trillionth of a moment. Now, 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 now. In much the same way that we can question time within a dream. During a nighttime dream, a dream at any time really, but during a nighttime dream, we may have taken a 3-month voyage. In the elapsed time, according to clocks, of 10 minutes. So we can see that time is a malleable substance. How did 3 months occur in 10 minutes? Or an ocean journey that seemed very real. We experienced it all during the dream, and it may have taken months or weeks, occurred in a short amount of minutes. So you'll say, but the past is real. And I say, no, when we think of the past, we do that now. When we imagine the future, we do that now. If I booked a trip out from now for 2 weeks from now, the experience of that trip would occur now. Other than that, it's just a concept. We plan a meal for an hour from now. That meal can only be eaten now. So where is the duration? Where is the long-lasting thing that stands independent of the mind that perceives it, is what I'm getting to. I think we can dive deeper at this point with a quote from this book, and many of you may be familiar with it, The Four Agreements by Don Miguel Ruiz. Now, I first read this book 15 or 20 years ago, and at the time I clearly didn't understand it, or a lot of the concepts went over my head at that point. But when we become more aware of our essential nature, certain things begin to, if you're reading a book, they just leap out at you that you may not have noticed before. And that's the case with this book, and I'd like to share with you. Again, many of you know that I highlight content because I believe that we understand it more deeply when we read thoroughly with a determined focus. So here's the quote that will help convey what I'm sharing in this video. It's on page 1 in chapter 1. What you are seeing and hearing right now is nothing but a dream. You are dreaming right now in this moment. You are dreaming with the brain awake. Now that's what I'm sharing also, that this is what's really occurring. Now, I'd like to add a caveat at this point. I have a little bit more information to share with you, but here's the caveat. The information that I'm sharing in this video is reflective of truth as far as I know it. And that's important to relate. But self-inquiry only has value when you do it for yourself. It can't be a borrowed recognition. Then that's just a belief. Direct realization feels very real, personal, as though you're recalling something that you forgot for a while, and now you're remembering, you're recognizing that which you truly are. When we get caught up in the character that we're playing in this movie called life, we take everything so personally and we can suffer. So you might ask, so how do I do that self-inquiry, Art? Well, for me, some may disagree, but even Scripture says, "Be still and know that I am God." So meditation, becoming very still, quieting the mind. In our modern day, we're so used to listening to the constant playing of it. What am I having for dinner? Who am I going to date this weekend? I wonder if my spouse will be angry at me for this or that. And the mind is going. So when we still it in meditation, as meditation, then we can see that we're aware of the sensations, images, feelings, thoughts, perceptions that we used to be lost in. But this builds a separation in there, that we're witnessing all of this. We're witnessing the body. We're witnessing the mind. What is it that is witnessing? Now, I'd also like to bring back another point about science in this video. And it's related to Max Planck, who was a German theoretical physicist. And he was one of the founders of quantum theory. So again, dealing with the smallest, they're not really bits, but I don't know how else to say it, of energy. Looking at the smallest of the small. Here's the quote from that great scientist who actually won a Nobel Prize. I believe he did. "I regard consciousness as fundamental. I regard matter as derivative from consciousness. We cannot get behind consciousness. Everything we talk about, everything we regard as existing, postulates consciousness as fundamental." Do the persons and events and circumstances in nighttime dreams occur within consciousness? Yes. Where else could they go or appear? Is my hand and this apparent body an appearance within consciousness right now? Is this laptop, this microphone, this lion, image of a lion, in consciousness? Yes. All experience occurs within consciousness. How could we be aware of it if it was not being conscious of it? Awareness Now, before I sign off, I'd also like to offer another quote from The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle. And I'm sure that many of you may be aware of this book. I've read it a few times, and I did enjoy it. I think it's a wonderful book. I noticed something in the beginning pages of it when I read it more than, it'd be over 15 years ago anyway, that helped point me to true self, recognition of true self. But I missed other points. But I'd like to share another quote with you from the book, and you can look it up if you have a copy of the book or go online. I'm sure somewhere you could find it. So you can see, made use of the highlighter effect. Here's the quote. Remember that your perception of the world is a reflection of your state of consciousness. You are not separate from it, and there is no objective world out there, as in independent of the mind that perceives it. An objective world did not exist in nighttime dreams. What I'm saying that is real of us is consciousness or spirit, true self. From a book entitled The Master Key System, years ago I read, the spirit of the thing is the thing. And that's what I'm suggesting too. That there's an eternal, irreducible nature to us, and that it's very worthwhile to know it, to discover it, recognize it. If you've enjoyed this video, I invite you to subscribe, share, and like. More information is available at my blog at thinktwice.me, and also through my book entitled This Taste of Flesh and Bones, which is available from Amazon. Thank you very much for listening. I look forward to sharing with you again soon. Bye for now.